Hi everyone, I'm Cynthia. Let's talk makeup, and specifically let's talk the Beauty Bakerie Cake Mix Demi Matte foundation. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do a demo of this foundation, and then I'll come back at the end and give you the full review of it. So I'm going to list the price of this foundation up on the screen because I don't remember off the top of my head. But the really great thing about this ordering this foundation, although you're ordering it online, there are a few places you can find this in store at Riley Rose stores. But Beauty Bakerie is it's an online makeup brand, and they sent me 2 of their foundations. So I placed the order for 1, and then they were sending everybody the next closest shade to the one that they were ordering, which I thought was brilliant, magnificent, and just really great of them to do, because it is really hard to order a foundation online, and they really didn't have to do this. I don't know how much this is costing them. I mean, it's probably factored into the cost of the foundation, but I thought that was really great of them. And because they did that, I actually went ahead and placed an order after that for their eyeshadow palette. Anyways, I really appreciated it as a customer, especially because the shade that I originally ordered was number 29, and it was in the neutral undertone. I usually order warm undertone foundations, but they had run out of the warm undertone that I thought would match me the best. But guess what? It happened to be the one that they sent me. So this worked out really perfectly. I will leave all the links for Beauty Bakerie listed down below, and let's go ahead and get started. So here we have my face up close so you can see how this foundation will focus. So I do have the 2 foundations here, and I have been mixing it. For the purpose of this video though, I'm only going to use one, and I'm going to use the one in number 31. So this one has a warmer undertone, and it is a decent match. It's a little bit light, but you'll see that it blends in very nicely. So this is the way I've been applying it. I go ahead and dot it on my face. I don't have any primer. I don't have anything on, and once we get to the review portion of this, I'll explain why. But I'm going in with the Beauty Bakerie beauty sponge, and I am going to be spreading this. So I'm pouncing the beauty sponge on my face, and there we go. So that is half my face. This half has the foundation on, and this half does not have. So hopefully you can see that it is a medium coverage foundation. It's playing with full coverage, but it's not full coverage in that not all of my acne scarring is covered, but it did do a really good job of covering up my hyperpigmentation, and it's a pretty decent match to my face at the moment. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other half of my face so you can see what that looks like. And I am pouncing. So again, pounce is the motion that I'm doing here. Hopefully you can see though that sometimes I can run into a little bit of trouble over here with patchiness, but then I just pounce and it fixes that right up. So there we go. So this is what the face looks like after one layer of this foundation. It does layer up. I can layer up, like usually if I need to layer up, it's in my cheeks to kind of add a little bit more coverage where all these acne scars are. And again, I'm pouncing. I'm really emphasizing that at the moment. But there we go. Here's my full face with the foundation. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish applying my makeup, and I'll come back to talk to you all about the review. Okay, I'm back with a full face, so I have contour, blush. I don't have any highlight on because I wanted to leave the foundation as intact as possible. I do have concealer in my under eye, and I use the Tarte Shape Tape concealer, so you can tell that there's a little bit of a difference in tone between the concealer and the foundation. So let's get started with the positive things about this foundation. The number one thing that I enjoyed the most out of from this foundation is its longevity. This is a foundation that will last all day, and as I always discuss in my foundation reviews, all day means different people. 8 hours, for example, does not mean all day for me. I need my foundations to last me longer than 8 hours. Sometimes I need them to last 12 plus hours. Sometimes I end up wearing a foundation for 14 hours, and I need it to last, especially if it's a work day. Right? Like if it's not, I might not care as much, but during a work day, I don't want to have to worry about my foundation like coming off or doing weird things on my face. So this foundation will last me all day. It will last me through the 12 plus work days that I sometimes have, which is really great. It'll do that without any kind of setting powder, without any kind of touch up. It controls my oils really well. I have very oily skin, like very oily skin, and this foundation does not allow my oils to peek. This foundation does not allow my oils to peek through at all. Finally, a lot of the foundations that I've been trying out recently, maybe take a look at some of my past recent reviews, have been needing powder or touching up, and so this one does not. And so that is one of the positive things. The other positive thing about this is the kind of finish of this. Now, the bottle says demi matte for the finish, but I find it to be a matte finish. Like other foundations that I've been trying out around the same time had more of a demi matte than this one. I find this one to be more on the matte side than not. So if you don't like that, I would not then recommend this foundation because I do find it matte. Like right now, what's on my face, so you see my face, is without any kind of powder or anything on top. So usually I do like to wear some sort of powder on top regardless of what the foundation is, and I also like to use some sort of finishing spray. All of those things kind of help give me that matte look that I'm looking for. I am looking for a matte look, and so in that respect, this was a great one for me as well because it does give me that matte look. It does play well with powders, even though it doesn't require powder on top. So sometimes what I like to do, or a lot of times what I like to do, is to put in on top the Beauty Bakerie setting powder in yellow. It's the one I have. And this is a really great powder with this foundation because it gives you more of that demi matte look. This is a powder that is very finely milled. This one has a little bit of a yellow tint, but they do have a lighter and a darker one. On top of the foundation, this powder, it doesn't give you a matte look. It kind of has a little bit of goodness, a little bit of a glow. It doesn't have glitter on it or anything like that, but it gives it more of a demi matte look. So if you're interested in that, then I think this powder is a good one to use with it. But like I said, the foundation plays well with other powders, so it didn't matter what powder I tried it out with, it worked well. This just happened to be my favorite one because it didn't ruin the foundation in any way, and it kind of actually made it a tiny bit kind of like that glow from within look that I like when I know that the foundation and everything else will look matte and control the oils. So that was a good one to use. Now, the thing that it didn't do so well was application. I've tried applying it a number of different ways. It does, or I like it the best applying it with a beauty sponge. But even with a beauty sponge, it's tricky. So I try not to look at any reviews when I'm kind of testing out products and plan on reviewing them. I don't like to be influenced what other people are saying. But in the peripheries, I managed to hear that some people were having bad experience with this foundation. And yeah, I can see that it can be very patchy when you apply it. When I was using silicone primers with this foundation, oh my goodness, it was leaving, like, especially in this area, super patchiness, areas where it didn't look like I was putting foundation, even though I was putting foundation on it. So one of those primers that didn't work well with this foundation was the Mally Perfect Primer. This is a kind of pore filling silicone primer, and that did not work at all. Another primer that I used and I thought would work better and still did not work well with this foundation was the Too Faced Primed and Peachy Cooling Matte Skin Perfecting Primer. So this one's not a silicone based one. I don't have the ingredients on the packaging because this is a kind of travel size of it, but didn't work well with this one either. I was still getting patchiness, less than with the Mally primer, but still those primers did not work with this foundation, and I think that that's the problem. So one, I didn't mind, or I didn't find it a huge problem that the silicone primer didn't work with this foundation. That's typical. Usually water-based foundations and kind of silicone primers don't mix well together. So to me, that was okay. Like, that's can be a normal issue to have. The problem was that any primer I was using was leaving me that patchiness. So finally, what I did to get this foundation to work was to not apply any primer. If you moisturize your face before you apply this foundation, it worked. I had no problems when I was doing that. I don't always moisturize my face though right before I apply makeup on. So I was still having problems even with without any primer with getting some patchiness. I was mixing these foundations, but I found that that wasn't necessarily the thing that I was doing wrong, because mixing them or using them individually would still sometimes lead to patchiness, and nobody wants patchiness on their face. That is a huge problem. So one of the things that I did see that people were saying online about how to properly use this foundation was to use a beauty sponge, and they were saying to mix it with their beauty oil, their face oil. Beauty Bakerie makes the face oil that looks really good, but I don't have. Now, I don't think that that's a fair thing to ask customers to do, to mix something in with the foundation to make it work. Because if it needs that oil, then why isn't that oil already in the foundation ingredients? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, I get how using an oil with a foundation will sometimes help, but it shouldn't be a requirement to make the foundation work. So no way, one, I wasn't gonna use any oil with this foundation. My goal was to see if I could make it work on its own, and I did. As you saw in the video, I don't have, and as you can see right now, I don't have a ton of patchiness in my face right now, and that's because I didn't apply any primer. I used a beauty sponge. You don't have to use their beauty sponge, but a beauty sponge is recommended, or I would recommend it with this foundation. The other thing is, when you apply with the beauty sponge, pounce. It's like you're hitting your face. But pouncing seems to be the best way to spread this foundation without leaving any patchiness. When I was kind of smoothing, using this kind of motion to apply the foundation, I was getting patchiness. Even with this, with their beauty sponge, I needed to pounce in order to make this foundation work. I think it also helps when you're just using one rather than mixing two foundations. I don't think this is the best mixing foundation. That's okay. So again, pounce and then make it work. So do I recommend this foundation? I don't know. It kind of depends on your preferences, and it depends on whether this is something that you're willing to work with. Right? If you're willing to work with, if using a beauty sponge and doing the pouncing motions is totally natural to you, then and you like a matte finish foundation that lasts all day, then I would say yes, definitely recommend it. But if you don't use a beauty sponge, or you don't like that particular method of application, then you're not gonna like it. I'm a big believer in giving products a shot and kind of figuring out how to make them work. But I also think that we all have our routine, and ideally we want something to work with the routine that we already have rather than having to adjust everything for a product. So when I do a review, I like to make the products work, but otherwise, really, I feel like the product needs to function with my routine. If this works with your routine, then I say give it a try. If not, I think stay away from it. So I was able to make the foundation work for me. I think it gives me a really nice look. It's a finish I like. The result I like. So I'm willing to work with it, and I'm enjoying it. I'm going to put it aside because I've got a few other foundations that I like to review on my channel, but it is a foundation that I'm going to keep and I'm going to continue to use. So take that for what it is. I don't think this is the worst foundation in the world. It just has some quirks that for some people are going to be deal breakers, and for others will not. It is what it is. I'm hoping that I'm just giving you enough information as to what those kind of issues are so that you can make your own decision. So that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching. If you're planning on getting this foundation, or if you already got it and you'd like to share your experience using the foundation with us down below, please do so. It should all be a conversation because we all have different skin types, different needs, and different preferences when it comes to makeup and beauty products. And so it's nice to get kind of the full range of experiences and taste. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.